Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Wealth and Wisdom with Fred Belcastro from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Friday, March the 23rd, the year 2018. And now, friends, here he is, Mr. Fred Belcastro.
When you're smiling, and the whole world smiles with you. And when you're laughing, oh, you're laughing. When the sun comes shining through. When you're crying, you bring on the rain. Stop your sighing. Won't you be happy again? When you're smiling, keep on smiling. And the whole world smiles.
Good morning and welcome to the Wealth and Wisdom Show. My name is Fred Belcastro, and I'm your host over the next 30 minutes as we provide financial clarity so that you can create, cultivate, and keep your money in a tax-efficient manner. Once again, we are broadcasting from the John DeVita Broadcast Center here on the northwest side of Chicago. And not only are we talking to John DeVita, the station manager, but also he's been written up in one of the local papers as well. So we give a shout out to John and the wonderful work that he accomplishes, not only for the station, but for the entire community. And speaking of community, this Friday morning, you're listening to us on Jack FM, 89.7 WRHS, out of Norwich, Illinois. Now I'm going to talk about what I do, because so many people have called and said, what exactly do you do, Fred? Well, for those of you who don't know, I'm in the financial services business, have been for the last 50 years, and I carry with me a very unique approach, because I help people find money that they're currently losing unnecessarily. In all the years that I've been in the business, there's only two ways that any advisor can help people financially. And the worn-out, well-known way is, hey, can you find me a better product, a better investment that's going to pay me more money? Find a better investment, a better product that potentially could pay me a higher return than I'm receiving now. And we often, in that mindset, lose track of the risk that's involved in such a transaction. So yeah, that's one way. Find better products. The miracle, the silver bullet, and I've gone over and over and over through my career and saying, hey, there ain't none. There ain't no silver. There ain't no magic product. The products are good. Every product has a place, and there's a place maybe for every product. But what I'll talk about in the weeks to come, how do we find those products, where do those products come to us from, and who creates those products and the reason that they're created. Better still, I find that a better way of helping my people is to become more efficient by avoiding the unnecessary losses. The unnecessary losses, you've heard me over and over talk about the unnecessary losses. I'm not talking about the change. You know, when you're at the Target store and you pull out your wallet, some money, and a few coins that you've inadvertently stuffed into your pocket or in your wallet fall out. I'm not talking about that 73 cents a year you might drop in pennies. The philosophy that I've carried with me for the last 10, 12 years now has been that there's more of an opportunity for me to serve my clients by helping them avoid the losses, by helping them to avoid the unnecessary losses in their money than picking the winners. Now, when I talk about the losses, I'm not talking about the nickels and dimes in change. I'm talking about how you pay for your house. We all have homes. Most have homes and have mortgages along with those homes. What type of mortgage do you have? Do you carry? Is it the most efficient and effective for you? What does it cost you? What are the costs involved? And when I talk about avoiding the unnecessary losses, what losses are there with your home? Well, we can take a look at that and we can talk about that. And that's one of the areas in which I find a great deal of what we call the wealth transfers. How about how you pay your taxes? I'm not talking about April 15th. I'm talking about how you pay the taxes that are due on various items. Another area is how you fund your retirement accounts, how you fund your qualified plans, the contributions that you make to your qualified plans. Should it be in a 401? Most of the money in a 401k or 503b or IRA or Roth IRA? What combination, or where should you get the biggest advantage? Not for everybody. Not a 401 isn't for everybody. IRA isn't for everybody. There's no individual that's going to solve all the problems that we have financially. How do you pretend to pay for your children's education? How's that money going to be accumulated, warehoused, and spent? Big area. And how do you pay for those major capital purchases, those big purchases that you make that can't be paid with the monthly cash flow, that can't be paid in full with your monthly cash flow, like a wedding for your children, a wedding that comes up, your vacations that you're planning, your automobiles that you drive, your car, perhaps your spouse's car, any of the children's car. You see, those are all some of the areas, and actually when we sit down and go through it, there's some 20-some areas in which people are losing money unknowingly, and I've often said, years ago I said, if you knew where you were spending the money, you probably wouldn't be spending it. And then I come to realize that, yeah, we know what those charge accounts are costing us. We know what that revolving charge is. We know the interest that we'll pay on them. See, a lot of the area we already know, but we feel as though there isn't anything else we can do other than what we're currently doing. But it's important that we pump some money into those tanks, into the savings tanks, into the investment tanks. But are we pumping in and are we putting in all we should? One of the things that I've talked about is that do you know, have you sat down, do you discuss in your family situation what rate of return you have to earn on both the savings and investments to be able to retire? Being able to retire at your current standard of living along with inflation and still have the money fulfill your legacies that you thought of or that you desire, and have your money last through your life expectancy. One way to handle that rate of return would be to take on more risk, right? Let's move our money to a more aggressive investment account, one that could give us that higher return. And maybe let's bite the bullet on some of the risk we might have to take. You have to take more risk with your money that you need for retirement or to put you in a position A. Position A is to have the funds necessary so that you continue after working to last you your entire lifetime, living the standard of living along with inflation that you're currently living now. But listen, it boils down to if I could find a way for you to retire when you want to retire and still have your money last for the rest of your life or your life expectancy without having you take more risk. Is that a conversation you might be interested in having? Because that's what I do. When we talk about what do you do, that's what I do. Another question we could ask is, do you know how much you have to save, either monthly or annually, to be able to retire at your current standard of living and still have the money last your entire life expectancy? Well, there's a shortfall in many accounts. Once you take a look at them, there's a shortfall of maybe several $1,000s, dollars that you need to retire, maybe at age 64, 60, 62, 65, 8, whatever the age is. Having that shortfall, but filling that shortfall with enough money to last your entire life? You see? Here, if I could find the money to make up for this shortfall without you having to continue working and working and working in order to save that amount, would you be interested in talking about it? Would you be interested in having that conversation? Because, my friends, that's what I do. You see? Another area is, do you know what, with what you're currently doing right now, how long you're going to have to continue to work to be able to retire and live your current lifestyle adjusted for inflation until your life expectancy? If the figures say you'll have to work 2 years, 5 years, another 6, 7 years in order to retire, is that something you want to do? But on the other hand, if I can find a way for you to retire when you want to retire without having to work those additional years, is that another conversation that you might be interested in having? Because, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I do. The fourth question that I've talked about is, do you know, don't pay no, never mind. Don't listen to anything that you might hear from me. If you don't do anything different than what you're currently doing, what you're doing right now, what you're doing today, how much will you have to reduce your standard of living, if you have to reduce your standard of living at your retirement age to have your money last your lifetime? Okay? But again, sit down and talk to an advisor that could perhaps plug the holes in your bucket where a lot of this money is going. That's what I do. If I could find a way for you to retire when you want to retire without having to reduce your standard of living to make up that difference, would you be interested in talking about it? Would you be interested in, as they say today, having that conversation? Because that's what I do. And so meeting with me for 10 or 15 minutes, you can get the answer to these 4 questions. The rate of return that you need, how much more you have to save monthly or annually, how long will you have to work, reducing your standard of living at age 65 because you don't have enough. Let's have that conversation today. Let's have that conversation now before it becomes too late, because that's what I do. I'm in the financial services business with a very unique approach in that I help people, work with people, help you find money that you're currently losing unnecessarily and unknowingly. What money are we talking about? Because everybody wants money, you know. Well, one of the things that I like to start a conversation with, of course, I'll talk about what's a circle of wealth and what we know and what we don't know and what we know to be true and what we don't have any idea. It's one of the areas in which I've talked. If what you thought you knew to be true turned out not to be true, when would you want to know, and do you want to know? And it's important to answer some of those questions. But one of the questions that I usually start a conversation with is the wealth potential. What is your wealth potential? It's a concept that looks at money that you're going to earn, and we calculate your maximum potential value. You see, suppose you could save and invest every dollar you've ever earned. Of course, that's not possible, but understanding this concept could help you look at your money maybe in a different light. Why don't we take a break, and let's discuss that when we return.
Walk away, please go, before you throw your life away, a life that I could share for just a day. We should have met some years ago. For your sake I say, walk away, just go. Walk away and live a life that's full with no regret. Don't look back at me, just try to forget. Why build a dream that cannot come true? So be strong, reach the stars now. Walk away, walk on. If I heard your voice, I'd beg you to stay. So don't say a word, just run, run away. Goodbye, my love. My tears will fall now that you're gone. I can't help but cry, but I must go on. I'm sad that after searching so long, knew I loved you, but told you, walk away, walk on.
Of course, that was the song Walk Away by a singer who the technicians say and claim had the most perfect pitch they've ever heard from any singer, avoiding any fuzz on his notes, as they put it. We'll play another one of his songs a little bit later, and maybe you could figure out who it is. But let's get back to what we're talking about. Let's get back to the wealth and wisdom. And as usual, I'd like to thank you for the support you've given not only this station, but this show. During the week, I can be reached at area 630-673-4360. That's what I do. That's what I do. That's what I do. I find money for people. I find money for people so that they can put it in a couple of areas, in a couple of places, and I'll talk about that just in just a few minutes. But I find money that people could put in a couple of places. One of the places that they want to put it in is their lifestyle. Don't you want to increase the benefits of your lifestyle rather than paying for an item over the next 20 years because you put it on a revolving charge, and yet still be able to maintain that lifestyle for you and your family? That's what I do. That's what I do, and I certainly enjoy providing the clarity to individual families. It's what I do. But getting back to our discussion, one of the areas in which we have to touch on is the opportunity cost. And it's an economic term which assumes, rightly so, that every dollar that you have in your hand has a greater benefit, has a greater potential value than just that dollar itself. Because if you lose a dollar that you didn't have to lose, you not only lost that dollar, but you also lost what that dollar could have earned had you been able to keep it. You understand? There's a cost involved. You can save the money or spend the money. Those are the two choices. Every dollar you earn, you have that choice. You could spend it or you could save it, or you could spend it or you can save and invest it. Now, if you could earn 5%, then that's a easy figure. If you 3%, 2%, 5%. You've got to understand the concepts here and the application of the concepts to each individual in each individual period of time, because our dollars are slowly but assuredly decreasing in value over time, right? You know this. It's inflation, and it reduces the purchasing power or the value of the dollar. All right, but let's assume that you could earn 5% on your dollar, and you choose to save it. Now, if your dollar be worth a dollar plus 5%. Now, when you spend that dollar, it's costing you a dollar plus the 5% you would have had you not spent it. You see? So you could either save every dollar, every nickel, every penny that you have has the potential of being worth more in the future if you save it. Not only do you have that dollar, but what that dollar would have earned you, or if you spend it, what that dollar had cost you. So when you buy something, do you consider the cost of what those dollars could have earned? If you consider the cost of the tax you had to pay in that dollar, perhaps in a marginal 20% bracket, that value of the dollar becomes even more meaningful, because in order to earn the dollar, that cost you $1.20 right off the bat. You see, the purpose of me discussing this or talking about this has to do with the potential value of the money you will have in your hands and in your control over your lifetime, and a great amount of those dollars are spent or lost unknowingly. And believe me, it's unnecessary, because when I talk to clients about reducing the losses of these dollars, we're maintaining the same or a better lifestyle fund. We're not talking about taking money away from your lifestyle. We're talking about adding it. Remember the cost of those dollars, and remember what those dollars would have earned. Don't forget that every dollar you spend has to first, before you get the money, has to be taxed. So those dollars come to you, and that $1.20 comes to you in the form of a dollar. The government's already reduced the value of that dollar by the amount that you had to pay in tax in order to receive it. The fact that you have less should help you better understand the economic value of every dollar that you have after tax. And so this is what I talk about when I talk about the wealth and income potential. So if I say right off the bat, what is it that you'd like to have happen to your money? And when we talk about the dollars, well, the dollars that I'd like to have my money grow. We want more money, but understanding that your dollars, the amount that you bring home each and every year, is a finite amount. When we talk about the wealth and income potential that you have, just using a simple illustration, I jotted down an individual age 30 to 65 in those 35 years, income $50,000 increasing by 3%, no savings, but an investment return of 5%. What's the value at his age 65? Well, at age 65, his income potential, using the figures I just displayed, would be a total of $3 million. $3,023,000. A lot of money. So we want our money to grow, but if we lose it all, unknowingly, unnecessarily, where's it going to grow? The wealth potential on that $3 million is in excess of $7 million. So naturally, as I mentioned before, you can't save everything you make, but that's the potential of your earning $7 million. What percentage of that do you have in your pockets today? What percentage of that have we saved and invested? That's the potential. So when we look even at that $3 million figure, let's do a supposing, and we did this some years ago here on this station. We've talked about that money in the bathtub. If we had all that money at, one check, what would we do? So now, with modern technology, let's suppose we have an ATM machine in our kitchen. ka-ching, ka-ching, and every now and then we look at that, we got a balance of $3 million. We're going to give you everything at one time. Not monthly, not weekly, not everything at one time. This is your wealth potential. You got the $3 million here in this ka-ching machine. Take it out. Do you think you'd be a little bit more cautious when you've seen that number decrease each and every year? You see? But that's going to represent all the money you're ever going to have. That's your circle of wealth. That's the pot of gold, you see. And understanding that pot of gold is a finite amount. Well, what do you want to happen to that money? We want it to grow, right? Well, how are we going to make it grow? That it's always in our minds. We got to find a better investment. We got to get a better advisor. We got to get a smarter advisor somewhere over the rainbow. There's that pot of gold, and we're going to find that investment that satisfies all our needs. Forget the risk, that like everybody else, all other advisors, you want to have that conversation? I'll share that with you, but that may not give you the right results. What you should talk about is just simplifying it, saying, hey, listen, there's only 3 types of money: accumulated money, lifestyle money, and the money you're losing. You want to talk about that? You want to talk about the accumulated money? And that's what everyone that comes in the door. Hey, listen, where is your money? What are you invested in? Hey, we could do better than that. Here's the magic bullet. You won't have to work anymore if you listen to me. You see? But that always doesn't prove to be the most effective. So, lifestyle money, well, listen, you're spending this on your lifestyle, the mortgage expenses and everything, the day-to-day living expenses. Let's reduce that. You got to save more money. Why don't we just take 10 or 20% of that and get rid of that second car? Your kids don't need the education you're sending them to. We don't have to take the vacations. You don't want to talk about that. That's silly. Why don't we just start with the transferred dollars? Transfer the dollars. These are the dollars you're transferring away, knowingly, unnecessarily. Your taxes, interest on debt, like the credit cards and car payments. How are you going to pay your mortgage? How are you going to fund the pension? How do you pay for your kids' education? So here's a question. Let me ask you this. If you and I work together and I can help you find the money that you're currently losing, we bring it back to you. That'll give you money to put in 2 places, right? We talk about putting money and adding money to your accumulated money so that the retirement in the future could look a little more solid. We're also realists because we know that some of the money has to go towards your lifestyle. So you can have a little bit more fun today and your journey is a pleasant one. If that sounds like what you're looking for, then give me a call, area 630-673-4360. Now let's hear about a splendid thing.
Love is a many splendid thing. It's the April rose that only grows in the early spring. Love is nature's way of giving a reason to be living. The golden crown that makes a man a king. Once on a high and windy hill, in the morning mist, 2 lovers kissed and the world stood still. Then your fingers touched my silent heart and taught it how to sing. Yes, true love's a many splendid thing.
hill. In the morning mist, two lovers kissed, and the world stood still. Then your fingers touched my silent heart and taught it how to sing. Yes, true love's a many splendid thing.
Of course, love is a many splendored thing by that same velvet-throated individual. Well, our time is up for this week. I'd like to thank everyone who participated in this broadcast, Mr. John DeVita, our program director and station manager, and of course the folks that make this all possible at Jack FM 89.7 WRHS out of Norwich. And to you folks, the kind listeners, give me a call, area 630-673-4360. Look forward to talking to you once again next week. Thanks for listening, and come on, in the days to come, let's make somebody smile.
When you're smiling,
When you're smiling,
when you're smiling,
when you're smiling,
and the whole world smiles with you.
smiles at you.
And when you're laughing,
When you're laughing,
oh, you're laughing.
oh, you're laughing,
When the sun comes shining through.
shining through.
When you're crying,
When you're crying,
you bring on the rain.
bring on the
Stop
rain.
your sighing.
Stop your sighing,
Won't you be happy again?
happy again.
When you're smiling,
When you're smiling,
keep on smiling.
keep on smiling.
And the world will smile with you.
Let's go now. Let's go, Sam.
You have been listening to Wealth and Wisdom with Fred Belcastro from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Friday, March the 23rd, the year 2018. This broadcast was directed by John DeVita. Our special thanks to radio station manager Kevin Zeflik of WRHS FM Norwich and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Shikondo. Until next time, friends, please be safe and thanks for listening. And this broadcast was pre-recorded on Wednesday, March the 21st, year 2018. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois. Have a safe and enjoyable weekend.